Nashi!
What is up, YouTube? This is Nanashi back with another Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile video. This time I'll be showing you the changes and updates to my Beast deck. So this is another instance of decks I randomly decide to clean up or update get support for no reason whatsoever. It's not the first time it's happened, probably won't be the last, and honestly, I'm just glad that they gave Melffy support this time. And the support is surprisingly good. I didn't expect them to go this far for what is essentially a reactionary system. But now, the deck is overflowing with playability and finally shows appreciation for one of my personal favorite Beast techs. And you'll see what I mean when we take a closer look. Starting with the level 2 Beasts, we have a pair of Amazoness Baby Tiger, an adorable convenience extender. As a heart once per turn, when another Amazoness monster is summoned, it can summon itself from hand or grave. We have a pair of Calentosa Mystical Beast of the Forest, the main removal piece. If it's special summoned by the Beast monster's effect, it can target and destroy any card. Now we get to the Melffys, and to save you some time, they all share some common effects. As a heart once per turn, each Melffy monster can both special summon itself from the hand during your end phase, and during either turn, if the opponent summons a monster or targets the Melffy for an attack, it can return itself to the hand, and if it does, it gives you an optional bonus. Now we have a pair of Melffy Caddy who can add any beast from deck to hand. We have a pair of Melffy Puppy who can special summon any 2-star or lower beast from the deck. And we have a playset of Melffy Wally who can special summon 2 different named Melffys from the deck. We have one Melffy Penny, and it is the exception to the Melffy rule. As a heart once per turn, it can both special summon itself from the hand on any turn another Melffy monster returned from the field to your hand, and then immediately synchro summon with itself and any Melffys in your hand. And during your end phase, it can attach itself from your graveyard to a beast Xyz you control. We have a playset of Nimble Beaver, one of the deck's play starters. When normal summoned, it special summons a 3-star or lower Nimble from your deck or grave. We have a pair of the Fabled Cerberell, a tuner that is now seeing just a little bit more play. If it's discarded, it mandatorily resummons itself from the graveyard, and that's not once per turn. We have a playset of Tri-Brigade Cutest, an extender that tandems with Cerb. As a heart once per turn, he can both special summon himself from the hand by discarding a beast, beast warrior, or wing beast, and he can banish any number of monsters of those 3 types from the graveyard to special summon a link monster with one of those 3 types, whose link rating is the same as the number of monsters you banished, but you can only use monsters of those 3 types as link material for the rest of the turn. We have a pair of Valeraphon Mystical Beast of the Forest, a tuner monster and another extender that tandems with Cerb. As a heart once per turn, it can discard any card to target and resummon any 2-star beast from the grave in face-up attack or face-down defense. Next is the non-level 2 beasts. We have a playset of Rescue Cat, another of my deck's playstarters. As a heart once per turn, it can tribute itself to summon any 2 level 3 or lower beasts from the deck with their effects negated, but they will self-destruct at the end phase. And we have a pair of Alpha the Master of Beasts, the main deck boss monster. First off, you cannot summon it normally. It has to be special summoned from your hand when your opponent's monsters have more total attack than yours. And as a hard once per turn, it can target any monsters of those 3 types you control, return them to the hand, and return the same number of opponent's face-up cards back to their hand. But Alpha cannot attack directly this turn. Next is the spell cards. 1 Call by the Grave. We have 1 Instant Fusion and 2 Ready Fusions, some extra playstarter cards I don't have to waste the normal for. By paying 1,000 life points, these spells let me special summon either a level 5 or lower fusion, or a level 6 or lower non-effect fusion from my extra deck, but it can't attack and will self-destruct at the end phase. We have 1 Melffy Hide and Seek, a combination resilience and resource card. It lets each beast monster you control avoid being destroyed by card effect once per turn, and as a hard once per turn, it can shuffle 3 different named beasts in your graveyard back into the decks to draw a card. We have 1 Melffy Staring Contest, and that artwork is both adorable and judgmental. As a hard once per turn, it lets you reveal a beast monster in your hand, add a Melffy monster from your deck to your hand, then put the revealed beast on the bottom of the deck. And at the start of the opponent's battle phase, you can reveal any number of Melffy monsters in your hand, and keep them revealed, to make your opponent's monsters all lose attack equal to the revealed Melffy's combined attacks and defense. 1 Monster Reborn, And we have a playset of Obedience Schooled, my 3rd place starter. If you control no monsters, you can special summon 3 differently named 2-star or lower beast effect monsters from your deck with their effects negated, but they will self-destruct at the end phase, and you can only summon beasts for the rest of this turn. Moving into the trap cards, we have a playset of Rivalry of Warlords, which I'm not a huge fan of, but it does help even out some of those more one-sided games. It forces both players to only control one type of monster at a time, and since this build is beast only, it literally does nothing to me. Next we move into the side deck, and I have changed up the cards just a little bit. We have a playset of Blizzard, which is designed to answer some of those spell cards that I've been seeing a lot of lately that can't be responded to by monster effects. We have a playset of Dark Ruler No More, which was already a staple in here. We have 1 Harpy's Feather Duster and 2 Cosmic Cyclone because I can't afford Lightning Storm. We have a playset of Raigeki because I can't afford Lightning Storm. And since I already main deck Rivalry, I have a playset of Dimensional Barrier, which locks out specific summoning methods of certain special summon monsters. And finally, we finish with the extra deck. First is a pair of Fusionist, my instant and ready targets. Not really much else to say other than being 3-star Earth Beasts makes them generically useful for a lot of my Link and Synchro plays. We have 1 Cheerful Melffys, an all-new Synchro that acts just like a main deck Melffy. As a hard once per turn, it can both target and return any face-up monster to hand on special summon, and if the opponent either summons a monster or targets it for an attack, it can return to the extra deck to summon a Melffy Xyz monster from the extra deck. We have 1 Fabled YuGiOh, a personal favorite beast tech that I've been running for a long time that is finally seeing its chance to shine. While both players have the same number of cards in hand, all opponents' activated card effects are automatically negated and destroyed. We have 1 Naturia Beast, and this is going to sound weird, but I barely ever play it anymore with how relevant unicorns become. But it is still a great card. It can negate any spell card by milling 2 cards off the top of your deck, it's not once per turn, and it is the main reason I still play Fusionist. We have 1 Wolfrayet the Stellar Wind Wolf, which I play even less than Nat Beast, but it is fun to use as a choke point. You can only control 1 at a time, but every time any other monster effect resolves, he gains 300 attack. And once per either player's turn, if he is ever at 4,000 attack or more, he can shuffle himself and all your opponent's monsters back into the decks. We have 1 Joyous Melffy, a card that helps the little guys finish games and helps reset the big ones. You can detach a material to allow all Melffys to attack directly this turn, and as a hard once per turn during either turn, you can target and return any beast Xyz you control to the extra deck. Then you can resummon level 2 or lower beasts from the graveyard up to the number of materials the return monster had. We have 1 Melffy of the Forest, a defensive search and interference piece. As a hard once per turn, you can both detach to add any Melffy card from deck to hand, and if a Melffy monster returns to your hand, it can target and negate the effects of 1 face-up opponent's monster and make it unable to attack. We have a pair of number 64 Ronin Raccoon Sandaiyu, the brawler option for the deck. Once per turn, you can attach to summon a Kagemusha Raccoon token that has the same attack as the current highest attack monster on the field. And while another beast-type monster is on the field, Sandaiyu himself cannot be destroyed. We have 1 Cross Sheet, and he is the main interaction point between the fusion spells. If a monster is special summoned to either of its linked zones, you can gain 1 or more of the following effects depending on what Cross Sheet points to. In this deck's case, pointing to a fusion monster lets you resummon any level 4 or lower monster from your grave, pointing to a synchro lets you increase all your monster's attack points by 700 permanently, and pointing to an Xyz lets you decrease your opponent's monster's attacks by 700 permanently. We have 1 Mrs. Radiant, a tech I like to combine with the Sandaiyu tokens. All Earth monsters gain 500 attack and defense, all Wind monsters lose 400, and as a hard once per turn, if she's destroyed, you can return 1 Earth monster in your graveyard to your hand. We have a pair of Tri-Brigade Farragut the Barren Blossom, a link that offers extension and hand correction. As a hard once per turn, it both special summons a 4-star or lower monster of those 3 types from hand, or if it is sent to the graveyard, you can draw a card and put a card in your hand on the bottom of the deck. Finally, we have 1 Folgo Justice for Hire, more of a win more piece that I like to force out to be alongside YuGiOh. It has several effects, most of which are codependent on having more for higher monsters by its side, but the one that matters is that if an opponent's card is destroyed while it's face up, I get to draw a card. And that is the deck. I know it looks identical to the last version barring the new cards, but trust me when I say these new cards really upgraded the feel of the build. Wally lets me cut down on the other engine pieces to up my consistency, Staring Contest gives convenient hand correction and battle bonuses, pinning synchroing on the opponent's turn from hand exclusively is a gimmick I never knew I needed, and Cheerful being a generic target for every tuner in the deck makes it incredibly versatile. The best part is that even with all these new incredible cards, the deck still feels the same at its core, empowered to a whole new level, but there's always that fear that when a new wave of support comes in, it'll change the way a deck operates. And I am very happy that all it did was give me more to make better what I already had before. I thank you guys for watching the deck profile video. If you can think of any ways I can improve this all-beast deck, feel free to let me know. In the meantime, this has been Nanashi, signing out.